Baruch Hashem, the Canadian government allows us to have an extra day off. And it's always wonderful and beautiful to note how we come out, how all of you come out on the one day off, L'shmoya Dvar Hashem, to go here, Halacha, Agoda, to go here, the Dvar Hashem. It's a beautiful thing. This family day is sponsored by the Weinberg family, Zecher Nishmas Rabbi and Phyllis Weinberg. Many of you might not have known her, but she was unique in a way that although she was Rebbitzin Phyllis Weinberg, she didn't hold an official position as a Rebbitzin, but she took an achrayus for Klal Yisrael. Wherever she saw there was a need, she stepped in. She created a Shmiras Haloshen. She had a newsletter that went out to over 800 women, which was full of chizik, which she saw was necessary. She helped people. She had Stocker organizations. She helped out Stocker counseling, free counseling. In many different ways, her house was open to all kinds of individuals. Where she saw there was a need, she stepped in and took an achrayus. And this should be a lesson to all of us. And the Shama should have an aliyah. I would like to just take the opportunity to thank the Bayit Adult Education, Mr. Jenisov, for all her work and promoting shiurim upon shiurim. She has a special schus. And can't not mention Rabbi Goldman, who puts hours and hours of work in. And I'd also like to thank KosherTube for recording and spreading the shiurim to literally millions of people. It's a tremendous kavod and honor to have Rabbi Lowy here, the Mordechai of the Aguda, and one of the Zakana Rabbonim here in Toronto. Toronto wouldn't be the same without Rabbi Lowy's guidance, and is involved in all areas of the Jewish community, and it's a tremendous kavod that he came out here to be mahanos with a share.
Thank you, Rabbi Scheiner Shlita. And first, Poskim Mechoy Daksanya, I want to thank the Bayit and the Koil and the Weinberg family for giving me this opportunity. And it's something that's a big privilege for me and a kavod, especially Rabbi Weinberg, Allah Hashem. For many, many years we worked together, and her whole function was always to make sure that there should be tranquility in family life, should be simcha in family life. And if everyone always knows, speaking about Lashon Hara is just a general term. Lashon Hara means peace, shalom. Lashon Hara means there shouldn't be any machlokes. Lashon Hara, to be careful, Lashon Hara means be nice to each other, not to see bad in other people, to see good in other people. And Family Day is something in our days when there's such an erosion in dynamics of family. And Baruch Hashem, Hashgacha made that there is such thing as a Family Day. But to reinforce what the Torah's value of family, what the beautiful family life, what the Rabbi Shem wants. And there's nothing more beautiful than have a real nice, beautiful family. And family means husband, wife, parents, children, siblings, and the extended family, and everything that's created in this world. Hashem created us. Yeah? God knows better than anyone what we need. And everyone who comes to try to make up all kind of different, what a man should do, what a woman should do, Hashem is the one who created us. He knows what everyone's position in this world is, what we should do. We find, it's appropriate, this month of Adar is the month of Purim. On Purim, it says they took upon themselves mishpacha and mishpacha. That besides the mitzvah of having simcha, there's a mitzvah of having families together. It's mishpacha, mishpacha. It's a yontif where families go and rejoice together. The same thing we find by Pesach, Sela Beisov. Every family unit should be together. There's a special Indian that Rabbi Shem created. We should have family. He created families what Hashem wants. And if you go study the other animals also have families, family life. But especially by Klal Yisrael, the Indian of Mishpacha is very important. To care about family, to care about your parents, care about your children, your siblings, your wife, and so on and so forth. It's Mishpacha is very, very important. When Avraham Avinu wants to find a spouse for his son Yitzchak, who's the future of the Klal Yisrael, Avraham Avinu says, "Go to my family. Go find someone in the family." When Yaakov comes and to Lavan, and Lavan says, "Oh, you're my family," and Avraham says to Lot, "Oshem, Noshem, Achem, Anachnu." Family life is very important. To care about your family, to care about each other, care about the B'sarcha Loisis Alem. There's a special mitzvah when it comes to tzedakah that the first ones you have to give is your own family. Parents come first. If you have tzedakah to give, there's others who help others, and they forget about their own parents. They forget about their own siblings. They forget about their own children. The biggest mitzvah of tzedakah is for your own family comes, because family is very important. There's a famous story where there was one of the biggest Ga'onim and Chesed, the Rabbi Kotler Scheiner called him the Ga'on and Chesed, was the Kapishitzer Rebbe. The Kapishitzer Rebbe is Scheiner Baruch. There's many stories of his Chesed. The Kapishitzer Rebbe once called a person and he said that I want to come visit you. He said, "No, the Rebbe shouldn't come visit me. I'll come to the Rebbe." No, he says, "I want to come see you. I have something very important to come see you about." And he says, "No, the Rebbe can't be matriach." He says, "Please, I want to come to you." Okay, the Rebbe insists on coming. The Rebbe comes in as they start talking. And then the Rebbe, this person was a big philanthropist, helped many people, charitable organizations. And he said, "I want to tell you, there's a very dire situation. There's a person who doesn't even have bread on his table. He has a family of 6 children. And so he said, I'm ready to give a check right away. Tell me who it is." "It's your brother." My brother? Do you know your brother needs help just like everybody else? And you have to care about your brother first before anybody else. If your brother needs help, he's the first one you have to help. The first one you have to help. If your wife needs something, she comes before anybody else. If your husband needs something, he comes before anybody else. Parents, Nalocha Kibbut Aveim, parents come before anybody else. The mitzvah Kibbut Aveim, to know that, to care, to do something for somebody else. We know everyone knows the Gadol Ador, Rav Chaim Kanievsky Shlita. So his father, was when Ga'oinei Ador, this type, anyone who learns Kilos Yankov, or one of the famous and swarm that you have to use when you learn. And after he got married, every day he used to go to his parents to eat breakfast. He used to go eat breakfast every morning. He wanted to go, even after he's married. Every day he used to go to his parents, and his mother used to make him a breakfast. And he used to go eat breakfast. And when his mother was nifteris, he felt he doesn't want to go bother his father to go eat breakfast with his father. He's going to make his father make him breakfast. And so he stopped going. One day he walks by his father. His father says, "I also enjoyed your company. I also want you to come." So from that day on, until the start was nifter, he went every day to eat breakfast with his father. And the importance of caring about our parents, caring about our spouses, caring about our children, caring about our siblings, caring, feeling, have a feel for them, to do something for them. Once someone was looking into the home of the Stipler, and he saw the Stipler was on his fours like a dog, and he had his son Chaim on his back, and he was running around with him in the house. But that's a good parent. You know, you could be the Gaon Hador, you're still a parent. You're still to show that you care about each other, to do for each other, and that's what Klal Yisrael is all about. Klal Yisrael is all about, and the biggest chesed is at home. The Dessler writes that the place where you could really see if a person is a Baal Chesed, where you could see where a person is Baal Chesed, is at home. It's easy to be a Baal Chesed outside. You could see how you act at home, where a person takes off his veneer, where a person doesn't have any inhibitions. How do you act at home? How do you act to your spouse? How do you act to your children? How do you act to your parents? How do you act to your siblings? There are people that, to everyone, they come outside, they look like you wouldn't believe. Like, it's like two different people. One is a monster and one is a tzaddik. A person you come into the home, and it's not the same person that you see in the streets. And the main place where you could see who a person is at home. At home, the way you interact with your family, what you do with your family, how you act to the family, how you talk in the family. And that's the most important place. And it's important to go and show. We're talking about, someone going, the Chaim going to his father every day till the last day of his life. Rabbi Tzimknievsky, Scheiner Levracha, was known by her. Every day, everyone in the family, all the children, grandchildren, she had great-grandchildren. She wanted every one of them to come to her house every week. And she knew everyone by name. I remember I once went to the Babaver Rebbe, Zechayim Levracha, Reb Shlomo Babaver, and they were very close to my mother-in-law's family, the Schlaf family. They were very close. So we went into the Rebbe's room. So the Rebbetzin told us, you should know when the Rebbe has the roof, she said, has the happiest the hour in the week. He says, Erev Shabbos. And he used to light candles himself. She lit candles, he lit candles in his room. When he lights candles, all the grandchildren come to him. That's when it's the happiest moment in his life. Being with his grandchildren. Seeing his grandchildren. Taking care of the grandchildren. And this is what Rabbi Shem wants. Rabbi Shem wants us to be mishpacha. To care about our families. To do for our families. We'll get to the subject that we're going to speak about. I just want to first point out how important families are, and then we'll get, and the chesed. I just read a story about someone going to his parent. Somebody was driving down in Fort Hamilton Parkway in New York, going towards Lakewood. When you go down Fort Hamilton Parkway, you take the BQE, and right before 78th Street, that's where people wait to get hitches to go to Lakewood. And you always look out for people who want to go to Lakewood, stand there, and they go. So you saw a person standing there with his back towards the oncoming traffic, but he's wearing one of these belts, and you should be able to see him. And so he stops the car, opens the window, and says, "Do you want to ride to Lakewood?" "Yeah, sure, thank you." He comes in, and he starts speaking to him. And he asks him, where he comes. Where he says he lives in Lakewood. He's a Rabbi. So what are you doing here? "I come visit my father every day. My father had a heart attack, and I come to see him every day." So he said, "Why do you have to come every day? Why don't you have someone else come? Everyone else is busy. I have to come." He says, "You have to come. I know he enjoys my coming every day. So every day I hitch a ride back." So, "You don't own a car? You don't own a car?" He said, "I do own a car. But I want my wife to have it at home. She needs it for carpooling and shopping. And I don't want to go because of my mitzvah of kibbut av eim. She should be troubled." I mean, the seichel in that, in the shalom bayis in that, and caring, showing the wife that how much You don't, because I do a mitzvah, my mitzvah should not go make it hard on you. And that's a very important lesson in Shalom Bayis. You do mitzvahs. Your mitzvah should not be hard on your wife. A wife's mitzvah should not be hard on her husband. You should make sure that it's done in a way where it's compatible, that everyone feels happy with it, and no one feels stressed by it. And that's how it's supposed to be. Torah is supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to go and put stress on other people. There's a famous story of Soslanter. Soslanter once came to one of his Talmidim, and he came and he was washing his hand. So he took a little water, just minimum water to wash his hand. He said, Rabbi, the Gemara says if someone uses a lot of water, it's segula fa'ashiras. The Rebbe doesn't want to be oisher. The Rebbe is against being rich. He says, no. He says, we learned this from the Torah. It says by Avraham Avinu, where you learn the whole inyan of Gemilas Chasodim from Avraham Avinu, everything it says, Ala Bakar Otz Avram, he ran, brought the Bakar, and when it comes to Mayim, it says, Yukach no ma'at Mayim. A little water should be taken. Till now, it doesn't say he took a little animal. It says, when you come and do mitzvah with other people, on others' expense, don't say, when it comes to yourself, you do as much as you can. When it comes to others, a little is enough. You don't have to go, and don't be a tzaddik on someone else's cheshbon. Some husbands are tzaddikim on their wives' cheshbonos. Some wives are tzaddikim on their husband's cheshbonos. Don't be on the other person's cheshbon. You have to. So he said. So Slanter said that who brings the water here? It's the maid. If I go use a lot of water, I'll have to make her schlep more and more water. When I do my mitzvah and on someone else's cheshbon, a little water is enough. A little water is enough. When it comes, when it comes to do mitzvahs, don't burden other people with your mitzvahs. Don't, all of a sudden that's when you become, for yourself you could, that's what it says Rabbi Kiva. When you used to daven in public, you used to daven very fast. When you used to daven for himself privately, you daven hours and hours. Means don't try, you want to daven long, go to, that's why some Rebbes and some Gedolim used to daven in private rooms, because, don't go and, you want to daven long, don't go and burden other people with your davening. And that's why the halach is, if you have a minyan, you need people to answer, and there's somebody davening much too long, longer than the average, you wait for a Rav, because the Rav says every word properly. The Rosh Hashanah says every word properly. And you're supposed to wait to at least, you should be able to say every word properly. But if someone davens too long, you don't have to wait for that person. Because if you want to do mitzvahs, don't make it hard on others when you do mitzvahs. Don't make it hard on others. So Slanta said, for me, it's enough. So you see, this person came, he said, look, and you listen to the end of the story, you'll see how this person, how careful he was. So then he sitting down in the car, he says, I go every day to my father, I don't make other people come, I let my wife have the car, and all of a sudden his cell phone rings. He says, do you mind if I answer the cell phone? So he said, no, sure, you can answer it. So he answers the cell phone and he speaks to his wife a few moments, and he hangs up. He says, why'd you ask me permission to answer the phone? He said, why did I ask you permission? Do you think it's nice I should be sitting on the phone and you should not have anyone to talk to? You're doing me a favor and you drive me and I should be sitting on the phone? And many people, you come to a car and I sit on the phone and I shouldn't. And the only reason I answered this phone, you know why I answered this phone? Because I didn't want my wife to think that I forgot about her because I'm going to my father. That's the only reason I answered the phone. To know that she should know that I'm thinking about her the whole time. Even she shouldn't think many times, machlokes, and your father comes first, your mother comes first. I'm thinking about you even when I'm going to my father. So that's the only reason I answered the phone. And so okay, then continue going, and then later, he wants to pay for the gas. Said no, I have to pay. No, he doesn't want to take the money. Then he says, tell me where you live. He says, no, I'm not telling you where you live. I don't want you to go out of your way. You drop me off and I'll get to my house. Tell me your address. I'm not telling you your address. Then he says, you know what? You come every week, I go Sunday night, I go back. Let's make up. Instead of you having try to find it, we'll make up, I'll take you every Sunday night. I'm not going to burden you and make you. I'll stand here and don't worry about it. Then I have one puzzling question. You want to get a hitch. Why are you facing your back to the oncoming traffic? Why aren't you facing the traffic? So he said, I'll tell you why. There are a lot of people going to Lakewood, husband and wife. They don't want anyone to come in the car. Chas and Kala. There are a lot of people when they listen to their CD, they don't want other people to come in. If I'm standing with my face there, I make them feel guilty. I don't want, look, I'm standing the other way. They don't even know I'm looking for. So he said, but don't you realize that this way many people who could have picked you up don't pick you up. He says, I'd rather them not pick me up and be a burden for them. But he says, but maybe you'll miss. He says, Baruch Hashem, every day someone picked me up. Rabbi Hashem helped me every day. This is called Midas and Klal Yisrael. This is caring in everything you do, not to hurt another person, and especially not to hurt a spouse, especially not to hurt parents, especially not to hurt children. The Rambam, when the Rambam, this is the famous Rambam, when the Rambam brings down what a husband and wife should look like. My father-in-law used to say this by many Sheva Brachas in our family. He used to say over the Rambam. The Rambam brings down, and you just read every word of the Rambam and tells you how a home should be, and how a husband should act to a wife, and how a wife should act to her husband. Tzivu Chachomim, these are quoting the Rambam. Tzivu Chachomim, and I special word because I want to read the words of the Rambam, the Holy Rambam. Every word by him is taken from Chazal. Tzivu Chachomim shi Adam mechabed es ishto yoyser megufay. A person should respect his wife more than he respects himself. V'yahavay kegufay, and should love her as much as you love yourself. After acha kamoicha. You can't love a person more than you love yourself. But you can respect her more than you respect yourself. What does it mean you respect her more? You do things for her. You go out of your way. How could I make her feel good? How could I make my... And Chazal say, the mitzvah of mechabed is yoyser megufay. Rabbi used to say, if you want to become rich, be mechabed your wife. If people are looking for segula, how to become wealthy, Chazal's segulas are the best segulas. Rabbi said, just be mechabed your wife properly. Respect your wife properly. And the Rabbi Shem is going to help you according to what Rabbi Shem wants to give you. He'll help you with ashiras. So there's a mitzvah in this. Tzivu Chacham, Chazal commanded us. You want to have a nice home. Tzivu Chachamim, mechabed es ishto yoyse megufay, and he's going to explain soon in detail how you're mechabed more megufay. V'ahavay kegufay, love your wife as much as you love yourself. V'im yesh le'momen hamarba, if he has money, marba v'tevasa k'fi ha'momen, that's pshat mechabed. A woman appreciates jewelry more than a man, and a woman appreciates clothing more than a man. Give her more, let her buy clothing. Let her go and buy, there's a mitzvah to buy yontif jewelry and clothing for a wife. Let her feel good. And there's stories with Gedolim, my rabbis, and tells Roshivas, for them they didn't buy anything. The wives used to have the best, nicest coats, the nicest dresses, the nicest, for a woman feels good. And make her feel good. Mechabdoi. Make her feel good. Make your wife feel good. And we're going to soon discuss what a woman has to do, so don't think it's only a one-way street. And this is just the first side. And don't put too much fear into the house. Don't be too strict in the house. Don't put too much fear into the home. The Gemara brings down, everyone, we learned those Seba Mem Medlikim Friday night, Asartem Eraftem Medlikus Aner. You have to say it, Besofa you have to say it softly. Because you're not allowed to put Eimei Yasera. Don't be strict. Why did you light candles late? Don't come and get angry. Why? The whole inyan of candles to bring Shalom Bayis. And you give a scream, oh, you came late, and you make a machlaikas. then it defeats the whole purpose of Neris. The whole purpose of Neris is Shalom Bayis, is to bring peace in the home. And Lo Yat Leim Yisera. The Chazal say that someone put too much fear in the house, and at the end, because of that, Averas will happen because through that. Person should be careful not to put too much fear, don't be too strict in the house. Be dibura ima benachas. Talk quietly, softly with your wife. Don't be someone who's depressed. Don't be someone, if you want to show your simcha to you, even if you feel bad, outside show happiness. Don't show sadness. This even for your wife. Especially even your wife who you're there with her 24 hours a day. Your wife is the most important person in your life. And because v'lo roiges. Don't be someone who gets angry fast. And this is what a man's obligation to his wife is. And, the Medrash brings down that, by Soita, Ishka sisters, he says that a person should be, if your wife spills something, don't get angry at her. If she breaks something, don't get angry at her. Don't be mevatran. It's not worth it, all the anger. It's not worth it to be angry. Upset for 1 second, but don't get angry at her. We all know the famous story where they say it by many different Gedolim, where someone saved up every penny that he had to buy the most beautiful esrog that he could have. He bought the most beautiful esrog and he saved every penny he had for that esrog. And then one day he comes home and he looks for the esrog and he asks his wife, "Where's the esrog?" She starts hemming and hawing, and then the esrog fell down and the piton broke. So now, what happened? How did it break? How did it break? He said, "I picked it up and it fell," and he didn't react at all. He didn't say a word. And later his children said, "How did you not react?" He said, "Look, the mitzvah of being Sameach as Ishtoi is just as big as the mitzvah of buying a esrog. The mitzvah of Mechabed as Ishtoi is just as big as the mitzvah of esrog. The most beautiful esrog you have is your wife. To make her angry, to make spoil another esrog, because one esrog is spoiled. And there's a whole story that from that money, afterwards a bunch of help that they bought a house, and there's families who were living in that house that there was Zoicha. But the main thing is, the idea is, the Chazal teach us, any house that wine is not spilled like water, there's no bracha. And the explanation is, that's why there's a minute people by Havdalah, they pour wine and it goes on the floor, that if you care about wine more than water, and you get angry when wine spills, then there's no bracha in the home. You should know, sometimes a child breaks something, you get angry. Children especially, why, a child that's, and then some children suffer the whole life from it. And you have to be very careful. So this is what man has to do. Now goes the woman's part. So the men will be happy to hear this part. She should respect her husband more than it could be enough. So before we said because there it means tangible, where you buy things for your wife, do things for your wife. Here it means give respect to your husband. Give him honor. Make him feel good. She should do what he wants. She should think of her husband like Sar, a king, or a general. Does what he wants. Whatever he wants, she goes. And anything she knows that he doesn't like, she pushes it away. Means what the Rambam is saying, a pashut thing. Each one should look at the other, give each other the greatest covet. And a woman should know that she has to listen to her husband, and whatever the husband. Even in this case, I'll tell you, there's a story by Rashach. The whole halacha is when you get married, whose minhagim you go. You go with the minhag of the wife or the minhag of the husband. Moshe has a tshuva. If someone comes from a home that didn't eat gebrokts on Pesach, and then they get married to someone that eats gebrokts, you eat gebrokts. So there's a story about Rav Shach. It's a beautiful story which shows the insight of a Gadol Adar. Somebody got married to a woman who she did kaparas with a chicken every Erev Yom Kippur, and the husband came from a place where they use money. He came before Yom Kippur, and she's telling her husband, "We have to go and get kapara. I have to do kaparas with a chicken. I always did it." He said, "No. We do it with money, and it's it's so much waste of time. I learn and everything." That's a history of Shach. He was sure he'll come to Rav Shach. Rav Shach will surely say, "Sure, money was good. Why do you have to go spend hours and go to the kaparas?" And so Rav Shach said, "No, you should do kaparas with the chicken." He said, "Rabbi, but why?" "Rabbi, I go to Maim and hug him." He said, "Wait, you go with Yom and hug him, but you see your wife feels so bad about it, and you see that this is going to make her feel good, and it's going to ruin her whole Yom Kippur if she doesn't do it. Give in. Sometimes you give in. Sometimes you give in to your spouse. Sometimes you have to give in, and so sometimes the same thing, woman. Sometimes you give in to your husband. You give in. You see, that goes into Mechabdoi, that goes in Melechus B'Tavas Liboi, and this is the big problem is, you know what the big problem is? When the woman remembers what the husband has to do, and the husband remembers what the woman has to do, they forget what they have to do. And he always reminds her, you know what the Rambam says you have to do? And she says, you know what the Rambam says? That's the biggest problem. Each one has to remember, what do I have to do? What's my obligation? What do I have to do? How much do I have to give? What am I giving enough? Am I doing enough? Always feeling I'm not giving enough. I'm not doing enough. What else could I do? The halacha is this whole halacha is Shulchan Aruch, what you can't demand from your wife and what you can't demand from your husband. A person tells his wife, "I don't want you to wear makeup." The halacha is that yoitzi v'yitin ksuba. You can't force your wife not to wear makeup. You tell your wife, "I don't want you to lend out things from the house." It's into people abusing it. The halacha is the yoitzi v'yitin ksuba. You can't. The wife will get a bad name. People will say that she doesn't want to share. And there's an interesting halacha with Nageya. Maybe some wine would like about Lashon Hara. Why can't you just tell everybody, "I want to give, but my husband doesn't want"? That's Lashon Hara. That's Lashon Hara. Go tell people, and it says the reason why Shaloi Tehei Moitzeis Shemra, because she doesn't. You'll make people talk about your wife. You're not allowed to do things where you go and your wife gets a bad name. The same thing, the opposite also. A wife doesn't want to lend out things. The husband could say, "I want you because I don't want to get a bad name." A wife could say to the husband, and the husband say, "We have to be careful what we do together, and you can't insist on something which will ruin our name in the community, and you have to be careful." There's also interesting halacha. Everyone speaks about abuse in our days. The Gemara brings down in Gittin, we're learning Gittin now, that Papas ben Yehuda did something which was wrong. Papas ben Yehuda locked his wife into the house and didn't let her go out of the house. He didn't let her go out of the house. He used to lock her in the house. And he did it because of tznius. He didn't want her to be seen outside. He didn't want to go outside. The Gemara says that the Shalmi brings down Meguna Ma'oid. What he did, what he's going to cause is the worst things he's going to cause. And to lock your wife in, and everyone knows, anyone who knows people who are abusive, who you don't let your wife out, or the wife doesn't let the husband out, and husband wants to go learn, you can't go learn, and a wife wants to go out to a shir, you can't go to a shir, you have to stay. That's abusive. To lock a person in and not let a person go out, that's called abusive. And no one, not one spouse has the right to abuse anything that's abusive. The Gemara brings down someone who goes and tells his wife, "I want you to take a pail of water and go pour it into the garbage 10 pails." So the Gemara says that yoitzivit and ksuba. Well, it says, why? So let her do it. But she's going to look like a shaita. You have no right to make your wife look like a fool. You have no right to make your wife look like a fool. You have no right to make your husband look like a fool. A person in marriage, even if it says Oiser Etzoin Bala, even if it says that she does everything he wants and he does everything, but there's a limit. A person, you can't force a person to do things which are against being a normal person. If you make me do things which will make me be someone that everyone's going to think that I'm not normal, I could refuse, and the halacha is yoitzi v'yitin ksuba. You could force to give a get, and yoitzi v'yitin ksuba. A person has to be careful, have an abusive. The same thing with how we abuse children or parents. Nowadays, there's a lot of geriatric abuse. Geriatric abuse. The Gemara brings down there's two people who feed their parents and take care of the parents. One of them makes the father work, and one of them gives the father the best foods and everything. And the one who makes the father work gets olam haba, and the one who gives the food loses everything. And the difference is, the one who makes his father work because he has a reason why he's doing it. Either the Gemara brings down for tax reasons, or for he's doing it, or for his mental stability. And the other person who gave his father food used to come, Dad, take your food, fresh your food. And the way you speak to a parent and make a parent, the same thing a husband and a wife, the way you speak to each other. You could give the best food to your husband, but if you don't do it in a nice way, you do it in an abusive way, that's not mechabdoi. The same thing a husband, when he gives her money and it makes her feel so low, it makes her feel if she buys something, oy vey, she's doing the worst thing, and makes her, you're spending my money too much. I had people come to me many times, probably many of you are familiar with the credit card. My wife is abusing the credit card. Credit card abuse. My wife goes and shops too much, and to work out how to. You have to give your wife. Sure, wife shouldn't abuse it. She shouldn't abuse her freedom. But she has to. But he has to also be careful. A person has to be mechabdoi, yoisim megufay. Let her feel good. Let her feel. Don't make her feel that she's like a beggar. You're giving her money. Let her feel it's her money. Let her know it's her money. She deserves. They had a whole clip about a woman. A wife works the hardest. Works 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day she works. A homemaker, even if she doesn't go to work, her job is 24 hours a day. And if she would take pay for what she's working, and nowadays even the courts recognize that, and not to be abusive. And a woman could, if she sees a husband being abusive, she could say, I don't want to do it. And the same thing a husband, you can't, you're not allowed to abuse me, and it's against the Torah to abuse. The Torah, and there's all halachas in Scheiner about abuse. A person has to be very careful. The way you treat your wife with the biggest cover, the biggest respect, give her everything. And a woman has to make the husband feel like you're shlemazel, even if he doesn't make any money. Even if for some reason the mazel, when you say the word shlemazel, is a good word. Shlemazel means Rabbi doesn't want the person to make money. People, you're shlemazel. The word shlemazel comes from a good term. It means his mazel, but to look down at your husband because he's not making money. And to make your husband do things because he's not bringing in enough panasa, and he's trying and he's doing everything, is the biggest abuse possible. And in marriage, there's no room for abuse. There's no room for any abuse in marriage. Like we said, lo ya'atzov li'yaragzan goes for both, for the wife and the husband. The wife shouldn't be too intense. Should make the husband feel that he wants to come home. You shouldn't feel, I'm scared to come home. I don't want to come home. I just hear screaming, and that's all I hear when I come home. To make when your husband comes home, even if you have things that you're upset about, it shouldn't be the first thing. Oh, it's good you came home. I want to tell you this and this and that, and make your husband ruin his whole. He just came from a whole day of work and all the problems, and all of a sudden he comes home, and that's all he needs. But you don't care about my children. Wait a half an hour. Let him eat. Let him rest, and then speak to him. And the same thing, it says a husband shouldn't come and tell all the troubles that he had in work. You have to be careful what you tell your wife, and to be very careful, to care about each other, doing for each other. And this is a home that's blissful, is a home where each one makes sure the other person feels that I respect him the most, and I feel good coming home. And even if you're in a bad mood, the wife shouldn't put on makeup and feel good and say, I'm so happy you came home. And not, look, I'm working so hard, and the husband should come home not like a schlep and come home nice. There's a famous story of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. A bacher was walking with him home from yeshiva. They right before the door, he goes and fixes his hat, fixes his coat, and he fixes his payas and beard. And the bacher asks, the yeshiva's having guests today? He said, no. So why do you ask? So why is the yeshiva? What do you mean? My wife is home. I have to go look when I come home. She's the Scheiner. I have to look good for her. And Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, by when his wife was nifter, said by the kaver, I do not have to ask her mechila. I do not have to ask her, and she doesn't have to ask me mechila. All the years we lived together, we never did anything to hurt each other. That's a blissful home. Never to hurt, and no one should allow the spouse to hurt them. And if they shouldn't make a machlokes out of it. Try to do it in a nice way and try to work things out, and to make sure that everything is done in a proper way. And then the Rabbi will help in a person who does things and does it for. And shalom is the biggest thing. And speaking lashon hara against your spouse is the worst thing. Speaking to people against your spouse, it's to anybody, to parents, is the worst thing. That breaks up most homes. And speaking, if you have something to speak, you have to get something off your chest, and you have to speak to somebody, the best thing is to speak to a professional, to speak to a Rav who you know is discreet and won't tell anybody, and to be very careful to know that don't speak lashon hara about your parents. Speaking against your parents to your spouse, speaking against parents. You know how many people put down their parents to their spouse. And the same thing, yesterday somebody called me up, even regretful. They were sitting with a family on Shabbos, and the husband and wife were speaking against the parents, and she felt bad, and she called me up what you should do. It's speaking against lashon hara starts from your own spouse. Speak to your friend against your spouse. It's the biggest lashon hara. It's the worst thing for shalom bayis, and to be careful. Only say good things about your spouse. If you have problems, go to a professional, a Rav, somebody who could help you. But don't speak to other people about it, especially to your parents. Don't speak to them about it. A person has to be careful how you speak. And the main thing is to be careful that the home should be a home that is always, each one always looks out for the other person. How much can I do for the other person? Am I doing enough for the other person? And see how much you could do for the other person. And not always, some people think, I will have to be truthful to my husband, truthful to my wife. The Ben Ish Chai has a whole mimer that a person woke up in the morning and I'm going to be truthful today. And they made enemies a whole day. A whole day. The person who brought him the Negelwasser, oh, you look so ugly. I made up to so she threw and put the Negelwasser on his face. And so on a whole day, everyone the person met, I have to be truthful. I have to be truthful to every person. And then his wife divorced because you have to be truthful to her. I hate your mother, I hate your father, and this and so on. And he gives the whole story. At the end, you have to know even when to be truthful. I always say over a story I heard from Rapam Zechariah Bracha. Rapam, a younger man came after 5 weeks marriage, running that my wife kicked me out of the house. So he said, most probably you did something. No, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know. She all of a sudden kicked me out. Rabbi, you have to help me. He said, tell me what happened. She doesn't. No one kicks his. She's a good woman. She didn't. So he said, you know what? All the times I was dating her, she never wore her glasses. She always wore contact lenses. I always used to ask her, why don't you wear your glasses? So she said, because I don't look good in glasses. I don't. Okay. So this morning she woke up. And she comes to the room and she's wearing the glasses. I said, oh, I now know why you don't wear your glasses. So, Rabbi, I didn't do anything wrong. I just validated what she said. I didn't do anything wrong. I validated what you said. So Rapam said, you have to be careful. What you say, and he brings a raya from the Torah. It says in the Torah there that you're allowed to be Meshanim B'nei Shalom, and that's also you're allowed to change a little because of Shalom Bayis. You're allowed to change and not say everything exactly the way things were. Where do you find it? When the Rabbi Shalom tells Avram Avinu that Sarah said she can't have a child, so what did Sarah say? Sarah said, I'm old and my master is old. When the Rabbi Shalom repeated it, he didn't say, she said my master is old. She just said, I'm old. So the Gemara says, from here you see a lot of change in Shalom. So said Rapam, Avram Avinu was 99 years old then. He was an old man. So what's wrong with saying he's old? A wife never says my husband is old, even if he's 99 years old. And a husband never says my wife looks old. You always say you look so young. And a wife should always say you look so handsome. You never, even when you're 99 years old. The Rabbi Shem taught us, don't tell your wife that you don't look good, even if it's true. Let's say it in a nice way, but don't say it in a way. There's one story, by the Shevrach, for a few days the Shevrach, the Kala gets dressed, and she goes over to the husband and says, do you like my dress? You think, which dress should I wear? Maybe should I wear a different dress? He never in his life cared about dresses. So what should he do now? I don't know anything about dresses. You know how bad she'll feel? Say, even if you don't, say, the dress looks beautiful on you. Say it looks beautiful. Make her feel good. Make her feel good. How does my shaitel look? Say it looks beautiful. Say it looks good. But to say things to hurt her, or to make her feel that you don't care, that I don't care. I care the way you look. I care what you wear. And I care. And that's what the Rebbe wants. But Family Day is a day where we have to reinstitute, and, as obviously, Kristelzach, as Yiddelzach, and the street, the deterioration of a family life, people call their parents by their first name, and no respect to husband and wife, no respect to siblings, for children. And to rekindle the beautiful, beautiful home, the beautiful shalom of Abayis, the beautiful shalom of Rabbi Shahov, the B'schus, we make sure our homes are beautiful, and we make sure that we don't hurt anybody, and we care about people, and we do. Just want to say over at the end with a story. We just lost one of the Gedolei Ador, Rabelski, Zechayim Bracha, gone. Rabbi Yisrael Belsky, Chaim Yisrael Belsky, Zechayim Bracha. So I just heard from Rabelski, somebody, and this is Negeya for how we should act in life every day. He had someone, by mistake, the company, the bank, made a mistake of $20,000. Tolas Akum. So he came to ask Rav Zev, Tolas Akum, I was heard, if a guy makes a mistake, you don't have to return it, and maybe you shouldn't return it, maybe Hashem is special, give me a present, I'm not allowed to return it. So he said, let me ask Rabelski. So he asked Rabelski. Rabelski says, I'll tell you what happened by me. He said, once a person came to me, and he that one was a Tosakma of $50,000. And the person, so I told him, look, I know a Be'er HaGoyla. It's a famous Be'er HaGoyla. Be'er HaGoyla brings down in Chosh Mishpat, Re'isi, I saw many people who made money on Toas Akum, and made money, and in the end they lost everything they had. And I saw people who were careful and returned and never wanted to use money that didn't belong to them, and didn't go with a heter of Gezel Akum, didn't go with a heter, and they prospered, and they had left over Yerusha for their children. So Rebelski ended, said this person who had the Shiloh didn't have any children. So the Be'er Goyla promises that you'll leave over, I'm sure you'll have children to leave over if you give back the money. And lo and behold, he had 3 children afterwards. And because if you do what the halacha says, and you don't try to outsmart halacha, not try, we all know all kind of stories, the Chil Hashem that some people make, to know that the Kiddush Hashem is that we live like Erlich. A person should see, a husband treating the wife the way the Torah wants him to treat. A wife should treat the husband like the Torah wants. Treat your parents and your siblings and children the way the Torah wants us to treat. then we'll be zoich all to have nachas from our children, nachas from ourselves, our parents, and we'll have long lives. And we should all be zoich to see the Biyas HaGoyel B'meheri B'yameinu.
Good to see you. Welcome up north. Oh, we're going to bench now with a mezumin.